All right, this is my last free moment, and then I have calls until 10 tonight, so I'll probably be working till midnight. So this is all the time I have. And I'm gonna do this really quick, regardless of who's watching, because it's the only time I got to do it. And then, and then hopefully those who watch can catch up. Okay? Today I want to talk to you about something deeply personal. I want to talk to you about your own personal ceiling window. Okay? Everyone has this ceiling. Okay? And I want to describe it to you. So if I am describing you, please do let me know in the comments when you get a chance if what I'm saying makes sense. Okay? So the ceiling window I am talking about is actually, you ever notice when things are going really well, all of a sudden the shoe drops and things start to go seriously wrong? It's like you can't stay up but for so long before suddenly something goes wrong, or something along those lines. I used to have a client that would say this to me. This was her story, and so she didn't realize that was her story, but it was, every time something goes right, something goes wrong. It's like I can't stay in it's like it never lasts. I hate it, and no matter what I've done, I can't change it, and that kind of thing. That ceiling window, okay, is your self-sabotaging button. Everyone has it, okay? Everyone has it. For example, Bill Clinton, okay? He aspired to be a president. He achieved his goal. And then what did he do? He self-sabotaged with Monica Lewinsky. Huh? Okay? So the ceiling was broken, okay? We do this as human beings all the time, okay? It's your joy ceiling. When you start to exceed that, when you start to overcome things, you are naturally going to toggle back and forth between two states. This is the reason people have trouble stabilizing, why you have the yo-yo effect, why you have this and that and the third, why something doesn't stick, blah, 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 blah. All of this has more to do with your ego trying to protect you. That's why I want to give this tip, okay? We don't understand that our ego is attempting to make sure we don't get hurt again. A lot of us make our ego an enemy, and that is the problem. You see, your ego is your personal assistant, and as such, if you don't understand what it's trying to do for you, you might misinterpret what it's doing to help you. All right? Your ego is your personal assistant. So, why would it self-sabotage, right? Why would it? So I'll give you an example, and I think this will help, all right? Let's say you want to be married more than anything, okay? But your idea of marriage, where you grew up, maybe it wasn't. Maybe the most painful memories for you as a child was watching your dad walk away, or watching mom and dad fight like cats and dogs, or it doesn't matter, really. All of these things can happen, okay? Let's say that's what that is. That's happened, okay? So now you get into a harmonious union and you're expecting everything to go well, and everything is going well at first. And then suddenly it goes to crap. And you're like, how did I get from here to here so quick? What the hell? What's going on? And you start to question yourself, okay? This is your ego's attempt to help you. I know it doesn't sound like help because you're like, ego, I kind of like what I had, and what the hell, right? I know you're thinking this, yeah? Okay, so that is your ego trying to protect you, because in your all memories that still exist, that are still going on, that are still within you, that never ceased existing, exist those wounds that you had since you were a child. Okay? So what is scaring your egoic child when it gets into relationships, no matter how good it is? Well, the fact of the matter is your old memories. So your ego then causes chaos, which then destroys the illusion, and you are kept safe. Nothing changes. You don't potentially get hurt. Voila. You're safe. You may not be happy, but you're safe. You have to understand how your ego is working with you so that you can start working with it instead of against it, okay? Nothing is more painful to my ears when people say, you got to kill the ego, you got to kill this, or that kind of thing, you know, and I know it's painful because I used to think the same thing, so I'm coming on here to correct what I used to say when I was, I don't know, in 2012. I've outgrown that. I've grown up. I realize you need your ego, okay? But knowing that your ego is your personal assistant changes everything, because this ceiling, okay, that we have, we must discover what it is, because this same ceiling will block us from achieving excessive money and abundance, joy in relationships, anything, truly, anything that we want. As soon as it starts to go to crap, if you have identified this moment, if this is you, understand what is going on. See, one of the biggest things that I teach is if you heal your wounds, you find your true self, because your wounds are actually dictating a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. Whether you realize it or not, your wounds actually animate both you and your partners. Yeah. You and your partners at the same time, okay? So understand that your wounds are more in control than you realize, okay? So what happens is your ego, trying to protect you, will create the sabotage so that you are kept safe. And if you know that, then you can overcome it. So what I did was I do a guided meditation, and I have not separated it from a meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and record that separately. But I do a guided meditation in which I travel through my own neighborhood, go through my mind's eye until I go to my home. And then once I go to my home, I meet my shadow self, which is my ego, and I hug it out. And then I trade places with this ego, and so that I'm in the driver's seat, not the ego. And I thank my assistant personally, and I tell my ego it's my best friend, and I thank it for trying to protect me, and I thank it for giving me all the options, both what I consider good and bad, because I can use them all to my advantage. And notice how differently I'm talking to my ego. And then at the end of that visualization, I hug it out and I walk away. But I've walked away with one of the best things that ever happened to me, and that is the ego got the message. I wasn't at war with myself. I wasn't at war with myself. Do you understand how cool that is? Let me tell you how cool that is. That means you can make anything instantly, and you don't trip about anything. You don't worry what happens, what's going to happen. Why? Because you got a universal assistant that can pull anything out of thin air, out of your quantum memories, whether it's the memory you had when you were 5, whether it's the memory you'll have when you're 60, whether it's the memory that you'll have 300 years ago. It doesn't matter. Your ego is your best friend, and it is trying to help you. And when you make it a friend, it changes everything, because now you don't have a self-sabotaging window. And everybody has that ceiling, you guys. I know you don't realize that, but you do, okay? You came in with this divine blueprint, so your ego is naturally going to try to keep you in the same state in an attempt to supposedly help you, okay? It doesn't want the old man to die. It actually loves that identity. In fact, a lot of the times when people have trouble letting go of a story, it's because they're in love with their story, no matter how shitty it may be. And I'm saying this with a grain of salt, you guys, meaning that if you think about it, even if you have a crap story, it's your story, so you are in love with it, so you hold on to it for dear life, and to let it go means your pain is invalidated or something like that, right? And that is the issue. You're in love with that story, so your ego, knowing that, does everything it can to protect you and in that state. So if you find that you're in these type of situations that go to hell, you need to become friends with your ego. You need to make your ego your best friend. Okay, relationships don't always have to go bad. Your manifestations don't have to go sour. The shoe does not have to drop. Those are all bullshit stories we use to justify the fact that we didn't know that our ego was trying to protect us. But thankfully, you guys have me behind the veil, and I can tell you, listen, This is what we're doing, you guys. You're not going to believe what our ego's been doing to us, and it's trying to help, and we don't know it. But now that we know it, let's fix it. Yeah? Okay? I mean this sincerely. Please, please stop making your ego your enemy. It is not. It is your personal assistant. It can be used to help you in many ways. But if you discover that this is you, it's time to work on your story, change your story, and figure out what it is you're afraid of, what it is that you're protecting yourself from. In relationships, a lot of times it's so easy. Your childhood ego is in control, and it is totally trying to protect himself from the bad memories it knows. And although you're attempting to be the opposite, okay, your ego is still in the back of his mind wants to protect you from those situations. That's the wound you've identified. That wound then makes it so you're either going to overcome it, or the other party is going to animate this wound for you to see it. That's what you're afraid of, and that's what the ego sabotages. In relationships, that's what's going on. But remember what I always said. You're in a relationship with yourself. Everything else is mirrored out. Everyone mirrors exactly what you are being inside. And so if you understand what you're being inside and you can accept it, you can look at it, you can love it, you can hug it out, you can be truly, truly appreciative of these memories, the ego has no ammunition. Okay? The ego has no ammunition because the chaos keeps you engaged, because we all suffer from some form of pain addiction, whether we realize it or not, and we tend to hold on to this scary thing, so right? And what we need to learn how to do is let those things go. Be accepting of all of our experiences, and then that way when the chaos starts to happen, you can recognize it, you can take a step back and say, okay, ego, calm down, we're perfectly safe. That's a great tool. We're perfectly safe. Stop trying to sabotage my success. I'm going to be okay. Okay? It doesn't matter if you figure this out sooner or later. I'm saying deeply personal because I know that I started to do certain things, and when it started to go too fast, I sabotaged. So I'm not saying what I don't recognize in myself. I'm trying to tell you, because I recognize it in myself and because I realize that this is common across the board, that maybe I can point this out so that you can help see the unconscious made visible. That's my biggest thing, okay? Make the unconscious visible. The rest is a piece of cake, because once you know what you're doing to yourself, you can overcome it. The biggest advantage of being non-dual in understanding, and the biggest advantage to interacting in the world when you know the relationship with yourself is mirrored out, is that all of your work is on you. And then by living by example, you inspire others. And when they ask you, how did you do it? You then serve as the example, and you serve better because you served yourself first, then the world. Okay? So this is why I'm sharing this. It's, if you'd like to know more, I would suggest reading the book called The Joy of Genius, where you actually learn about that ceiling window. Because if you have a success level that you have not achieved, but you've been trying, chances are you have met your ceiling, and that ceiling needs to be transcended. But because you don't realize what your ego is doing, you're working against yourself, and you're working much harder than need to be. Okay? That's the reason I always work with my ego, work with myself, program things inside myself, and as you notice, what I program inside then happens outside. But it's not an external focus. The external focus is only to determine how you're thinking inside, and then your personal assistant does the rest. But the only tip I've got for you guys today is please stop making your ego your enemy. I know we might have misunderstood the actions, but try and think of it like this, okay? Your ego was kind of trying to be like a parent, in that, you know how, I don't know how many people are parents here, but I'll give you an example. You know how we don't want to see our children hurt, so we warn them and we try and do everything, you know, or we might be overly protective and not let them go out and keep them locked up in a house or something like that. Okay? Try to picture that. That's what your ego is attempting to do. It's attempting to love you through protection. And once you understand that you don't need this protection, that it's okay to live, that it's okay to step out of the box, that it's okay for the old man to die, because your ego doesn't die, it just transforms and becomes bigger in the sense that you just gain more experience that you learned from. So putting your ego at ease is a huge, huge help. And it also helps you discover what's going on, so that then when you hit that ceiling, you now have something to work on. Because a lot of the times what happens is we have no idea, we get stuck on the chaos, and because we don't know what's going on, we just assume 3D is something's wrong with 3D and that's out of our control. Let me tell you something. It is always in your control. Always. There's a very subtle difference when I say you are not your circumstances are you. The reason that is because it's so simple. Your state of being reflects out there. That's it. In here, out there. It's a mirror, and only a mirror, so you can know what's going on inside. That is the only reason you are supposed to look out there, is to find out what the hell is going on in your head that you're not identifying with being. When you can look at that with love, acceptance, observance, and pull out of anything you want, you can assume their skills, you can assume responsibility, you can look at your timeline, you can consolidate memories, everything you can consolidate 8 or 9 new memories that have been stuck in your experience that keep coming up as repetitive patterns. You consolidate all of them, okay? You clear out the contract, and it has no need to repeat anymore, okay? But first you got to be willing to look at yourself and see why things are happening in your reality. So I hope that helps. Please stop making your ego an enemy. Please understand that there is that ceiling. If you're trying to transcend that ceiling, look at it and ask yourself what you're truly afraid of. If you're willing to look at that, say what you're truly afraid of, and change your story and fill it in with the opposite, you will get to the other side. I want to say, if you are afraid to do something, that's the exact reason you should do it. That will break your ceiling. It's like facing a fear. Okay? That's the exact reason you should do it, because do you know what's on the other side of that chaos? That fear, that thing that you're afraid to look at, that you're afraid, whatever you wanted is on the other side of that. I've spoken about this before, okay? I've definitely said it. When you get too close to your desire and that self-sabotaging frequency, because fear kicks in, then our desire starts to disintegrate and looks like it's not in the perfected state, and we just assume something went wrong with our manifestation. But no, what we're doing is approaching the field with fear, okay? And that fear then sends the light particles off to match the fear. And so now your problem seems bigger than it is. But when you're not afraid, the closer you get to that frequency, you can get to the other side without problems. But you have to understand what it is that you're doing. And the way to overcome these fears is so simple. You know, I'm sorry because I'm on the other side, but it's so simple. When you realize how big you are, how much bigger you are than your circumstances, that the entire galaxy is inside your body. The entire galaxy. Like, I mean, have you considered how big you are? Like, seriously, considered how big you are. You know, your mood changes the tide of the ocean. Do you know that? You can make it rain, you can make sunshine. You have control over your entire body, which is a whole planet, a whole galaxy. To not know how big you are and then be afraid of a tiny little circumstance that you made with your state of being inside of you makes no kind of sense. It doesn't. I don't do fear, okay? I just don't. But I know what I am inside. So I hope this helps. Understand this. Fear is the last thing you want to do, because it's just as creative. It's just as creative. There's only 2 emotions controlling this entire planet and illusion, okay? Love and fear. Everything else is a variation of that. Degrees of love and fear. Your job is to stay on the love side, not be fearful, walk in faith, because in all instances, you still have to believe in what you can't see. If you're afraid, it hasn't happened yet. You're worried, it hadn't happened yet. So you're imagining in reverse against yourself, using the law against yourself, and should not be surprised when it manifests. But just as equally true is in faith, you have to see what isn't there, okay? And you have to imagine it just the same way, except now you're using the force for yourself. That is the only difference, faith or fear. In both cases, you are using your mind exactly the same way. So choose, smart. Which one? Okay? God never, ever, ever lied to you when he said in fear, all this nasty crap that happens can happen. Why? Because it must exist. Everything exists. So he had the nerve and audacity to be like, listen, I set up the world. I separated it. There are this and this. Okay? On this side, you have all of these things. On this side, you have all of these things. Now, your job is to walk in faith so you can have all of these things. These things are in my kingdom. However, should you walk in fear, this is on the other side of the vault for a good reason, and you can have all of those things. There was no judgment in this statement. There was no anger. There was no reproach. This was, which one are you going to do? Walk in faith or fear? Either way, you have to use the same Jesus Christ imagination to create. So fear absolutely makes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You see I'm stuck on that? Sense. 0 cents. Like when people ask me, I don't know what to do with my fear. The hell are you talking about? Toss that bad boy and go live. That's why you're here. Nothing can hurt you. Okay? All right, you guys. So I really hope this helps understand. Make your ego your friend. Choose love. Choose faith. Ditch your fear. You're so much bigger than you know you are. And in the interim, when you've met your ceiling and you've discovered it, just understand that you must go through it anyway. Do not be afraid. I don't care what it looks like. Everything is working in your favor. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean that you should give up. Comfort zones are the death of you, okay? Think of a comfort zone like a slow boiling frog, okay? I don't eat frogs. I don't ever want to eat frogs, okay? But the truth remains that if you were to boil frogs and you start on a low heat, they comfortably allow themselves to be cooked to death. Comfort is death. Dare to live. And dare to live because you know God is on your side, working in your favor. Okay? It's inside you. If you've reached this, I hope you find it. Please read The Joy of Genius. It will help. If you've discovered you have a ceiling, please do. Try to check this out, okay? Because if you understand what your ego is doing, then you don't have to make an enemy of it, and then your life is so much better. Yeah. All right, you guys. That's it. I really do have to get back to work. I got 10 more minutes. Bye. Love you.